It's so romantic, actually, really, as a theme in it. Ah, it's genius, isn't it? Welcome back, folks. Hope you're all keeping well. So today we've got a kind of cool one, something a bit different on the channel today. We're going to look at the theme tune from the original film, The Terminator. This isn't going to be a reaction, obviously. I've seen this film a whole heap of times. One of my favourite films as a kid growing up, you know. I like the sort of, is it darker, more gothic kind of film than the second one? They're both brilliant films, but the first one has that real darkness to it. So it might just pip it for me, you know, from being my favourite of the Terminator franchise. So a little bit of background before we get started. The theme tune is written by Brad Fiedel. It's a name I've seen forever, and I know he wrote it, but I've never actually had to say it before, so feel free to correct me on the pronunciation. So very synthy based theme, this one. Looking at some of the notes online, I found out some information that the composer himself described the film's music as being about a mechanical man and his heartbeat. Makes sense, because if we think of that sort of repeated ostinato, bum 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 bum, that's the heartbeat of the machine, you know. It says almost all the music in the film was performed live. Everything would be performed live, of course. So I'm guessing what they mean there is that the layering of everything is done by looping and then playing over the top of it live, as opposed to recording each of the parts separately. Seems to be a little bit of dispute online about the time signature of this. Wikipedia does have it down as 1316, which I would be inclined to agree on. I think it's either 1316 or 138, and we'll get into that. But some people have mentioned about it being in different time signatures. I'll break it down and show you as to why I think it's depends how you want, if you want to count it in 16th notes or 8th notes, but I do feel like it breaks down to 13 per bar. So what's particularly interesting about that is apparently what he did was he experimented with the rhythm track on his musical equipment. So he's using a Prophet 10 and an Oberheim, which are old sort of analog synths back in the 80s. He says he originally intended the meter or the time signature to be something simpler, like maybe 7/8, but his finger was rushing when he activated the loop, however. Yeah, that makes sense. So, because if he's looping stuff, essentially what you're doing, modern day guitarists, if you think of people like Ed Sheeran or whatever, he sort of made loopers famous, where it's just a way of recording yourself on the fly. So you engage usually a foot switch, it starts to record, and then at the moment that you re-engage it, that's the start and that's the end, and then it just loops it round and round. So it doesn't loop it in terms of beats or measure, it does it in time, just whenever you start and end. So if he was recording the da-dun, 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 looping that, when he ended it, he accidentally ended it at a point where it would produce this sort of even odder time signature. 13 is particularly odd, you don't get a lot of pieces of music written in 13 time. So that explains it. It's sort of like a happy accident, I guess. It also says that he found that he liked the quote-unquote herky-jerky propulsiveness of whatever the time signature is, and decided to keep it, not even realizing the number of beats because he didn't write any notation. I'll probably find myself talking a wee bit about the time signature in this one because it's one of the things that makes the piece so unique sounding. Plus there's also something about the way the melody, the theme that's played over the top of this rhythm, that it's always sort of sounded to me like it's two different time signatures at once. This is the first time I've actually read into any sort of official, this is Wikipedia, and I did check another website before to find out any information on the synthesizers used, and there's very little to go on, but having read the sort of accidental quality of how this was put together, it makes sense, because if you listen to the way that this sort of melody is played, you'll hear it overlaps in certain bars, and other times it starts on the bar, and other times it starts ahead of the bar. It would make sense that if he's overlapping his melodic playing of the synth over that awkward time signature that he didn't even really know what he was doing. It's not that he didn't really fully understand as being 13 or whatever. He sort of just had a rough idea, I guess, of when it starts and when it ends. That it gives this really disorientating feel on top of the already disorientating rhythmic. You know. So we'll talk about that as we get on. But there's a lovely one of the class accidents about that is if you think about it, you know, if the mechanical heartbeat of it is supposed to be saying 13, ba bum ba bum ba bum, and the sort of melodic aspect of it, you know, you could argue about the sort of human side, that the two of those things don't really fit together, that there's an awkwardness. So we could look into metaphors and different things that thematically the music is, although they may have been intended to be a certain way, the way it's ended up coming out in creation is actually served as sort of metaphors within the movie itself even better, you know. So truly superb stuff. So the soundtrack was released in 1984. Of course, the album came out then as well. The first 6 tracks of the soundtrack make up the score, and the second half is sort of like a combination of different pop rock things and various artists. Apparently, the online music database AllMusic praised the score of the film, referring to it as an underrated highlight of Terminator and referred to it as a marvelous synthesizer score. Yeah, no shit. The review stated that the second half of the album was more generic. Yeah, okay, fair enough. I am not sure what way YouTube's going to take this. I think if I try and play the song in its entirety, I have a feeling it's going to get blocked. So I'll break it up. May still get blocked anyway, but I'm not going to play the whole thing from start to end, then go back and do it. So I'll put the link in the description, or you could go and search it yourself, although it does seem to be like there's lots of different versions. And he did write the theme tune for the second film. The second film uses, I think, the time signature of 68. He changed the theme into like a more standard meter in that, so it doesn't have this awkwardness of typical unusual time signatures where you would have 7 beats, 5 beats, 11 and 13 are the most sort of, that group is the most uncommon time signatures, if that makes sense. But he definitely ironed it out. I think he put it in 3 time or 68 or something like that in Terminator 2. Same theme, but it's, you can nod your head to it, but you can't really nod your head to this one unless you're a robot that's from the future that has got sinister motives. Or me, I can nod to it. So let's get going. It's icy cold, so sinister sounding. It's incredible. The panning in particular, the way we've got these sort of analog swells. I mean, everything's analog, but that coming from both sides. I love the way the rhythmic ostinato is actually panned. I think this might be the first time I've ever listened to this song in headphones. So you notice the sort of ba bum ba bum ba bum bum bum. The tail end of the ostinato is panned to the hard left. Or at least there's a separate part of information. So the first 30 seconds or so is the introduction of the song or the track. Not really a song without lyrics. Yeah. It almost sounds like the note changes. You know, I've always assumed it was the same. Ba bum ba bum ba bum 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 ba bum. But it sounds more like ba bum ba bum ba bum 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 bum. You know, there's a lower pitch, isn't there, on the very last note? Yeah. And we're in the key of E flat minor, which you got all flats apart from one, 6 flats in this key signature. And there's, so F is the only natural. You've got E flat, F, G flat, A flat, B flat, C flat, D flat, E flat. Lots of flats. So it sounds like to me that comes down to the D flat. So we'll talk about the rhythm in a second, but the harmony sounds as opposed all on the same note. I think definitely a different pitch in there. Oh man. That's proper chills. Proper chills. It's so dark sounding, you know. It really is. Even without the imagery, I mean, we've got that sort of iconic imagery of the Terminator now. You know, particularly the not Arnold Schwarzenegger, so to speak, but the what's it called? The endoskeleton or the exoskeleton or something. That'd be the endo, wouldn't it? But that sort of the metallic android kind of thing. And the images of that and the war and the HK hunters or whatever they're called. It's been a long time since I've watched the movie. But those sort of images are sort of post-apocalyptic kind of stuff are in your head. But even just from the soundtrack, you know, knowing about sort of machines having, you know, awareness or whatever, you know, it's creepy as fuck. So right, we've got to talk about this ostinato because I've got things to do, and I'm gushing already over Terminator. It's such a fantastic film, right? So I'm going with 13, and let me explain why I think it is. So I think we're in 3 groups of 3 and 2 groups of 2. I'll play the same note over and over and count it out for you so you know what I mean. So I'm kind of counting it like this: 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2. Because counting up to 13 in one bar is pretty much impossible at the tempo that this is at. May actually slow the speed down a little bit to make it clearer to show you where everything is. But that 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2. That adds up to 13, which, like I say, if every time the downbeat comes, it's not on a beat that you would expect. So that's why we get this sort of herky-jerky, to use Brad's words, feel. So one, two, three, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Okay. Yeah, this is such a fast tempo. I think I'll maybe go half speed here. So playback speed. Yeah, let's go half speed and see if I can count you along with the music. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2. Yeah, that's how I hear it. You hear it always comes around on the 1 again after counting it like that. Right, so let's push on, and it's around the 30-second mark or so where we got the main theme coming in. Oh man. So more harmonic information comes in after just where I've stopped it there. If you notice that the ostinato there is on that pedal note, except for that, you know, the single note that jumps down, but it's all essentially just E flat being played over and over and over again. So the first run through we get just pure melody on top of that. And as the song goes on, obviously we get a little bit more harmonic changes in the chords and so on. So let's talk about the melody itself. All using notes from the E flat minor natural scale, starting on the tonic, first note of the scale. brings us back again. So it's a little bit difficult to talk about the context of that melody without the harmony, but and especially with such a famous song, because pretty much everybody's going to have heard this. Are the people out there that haven't seen the Terminator, or at least heard this soundtrack? I guess there probably are, but that's that weird thing where you mention something that you just assume that everybody knows, and not everybody does. But yeah. So we've got it against this. Doesn't change. And that's bringing us into the harmony this time. Also, I should mention the actual patch, the tone of the patch being used, whether it's layered or whatever. I'm not sure how many keyboards he's got. Probably one, but he could have different layers happening on that. It sounds a little bit like a synthesized version of a trumpet to me. Read into that what you want, whether it's some sort of fanfare for despair. The despair fanfare of despair. I like that. Silly. But it does sound like a solo, and there's also a militaristic feel. I know we've got the connotations of a heartbeat. We'd already talked a wee bit about that in the introduction. This sort of irregular heartbeat, a bit like my dog's. My dog, is it arrhythmia? It's called that, where it doesn't have like a regular. My dog's heartbeat freaks me out if you sit and hold it, because it's like boom, 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 boom. His heartbeat's in like 5/4 or something. That's how he says, "That's my boy." It's the first time we get that chord. Back to a tonic. Down to 7th. Down to 6th. So the whole song is based on. Back to 7th. It's all 6, 7, 8. Or 1, 6, 7, whatever way you want to think of it. Just builds and drama there. We can hear it's thickening out. So although we were talking about this sort of isolated trumpet, this single soldier, we've got, a duet or something coming in there as well. I always think it's kind of cool to think about that kind of stuff. In hindsight, I know there's definitely stuff that's happy accidents. But there's sort of there's 3 main characters, I guess, in Terminator. And there's Sarah Connor and Kyle Reese, and then Arnie. But yeah, I don't know. It's not something that maybe that whenever Brad was composing it, maybe you thought of sort of the amount of characters or whatever. Maybe, because, I'm pretty sure that theme is also used during the sort of lovemaking theme, I think. So you could argue that that's the sort of the 2 human characters, and this is the Terminator character, possibly, maybe that's not accidental, because if you've seen the film and you know what it's about, if you've actually seen it beforehand, before you get to compose it, as opposed to being told what it's about and, having somebody describe it to you, that can also work as well. But if you know that ahead of time, then it's totally within reason that's a conscious decision to bring those elements together thematically in the music, which of course is just going to enhance the storytelling that's there. I definitely like this sort of constant nature. I know we've heard this thing about the heartbeat, and the heartbeat obviously is constant or whatever until it's not working anymore. But the other thing that's associated with this is the Terminator never stops. He's going to come and get you no matter what, and to me that's the real horror of this film. I guess it's a sci-fi horror, but I think I don't know how many people sort of see it as a horror. It's not a typical horror film, but there's something about the fact that he will not give up. That when I was a kid, that was the thing that terrified me the most. No matter how many times they try to off him, get rid of him, whatever, he just seems to keep coming. And then that iconic moment whenever it comes out of the fire and it's like, oh shit, this is the thing underneath the skin that has been, and then it goes full on Ray Harryhausen, you know, Jason and the Argonauts stuff like. But that's stuff, and that's nightmare fuel, you know, something coming to get you no matter what you're doing. We've all had those kind of nightmares. So anyway, I digress. Let's get back to it. Let's talk about the harmony this time. So I was telling you about it's really just the 3 chords. So if we're in this key, E flat minor, we would consider this C flat major chord as opposed to a B major chord. So that's the enharmonic. It's just because of the notes of the scale. So that's C flat major, D flat major. So another thing about this is simplicity done really well. Don't need lots of sort of dense, thick chords that are sort of, you know, got lots of suspensions and modulations and all the rest of it. If you've got the orchestration and the emotional content and the hooks and the themes, we don't really need an awful lot of chords. So he's just 3 chords. There could be more later on, but my memory serves me right. It's just these. So we got beautiful. Now to the D flat. Back down to the C. No, I'm adding a 7th in there, sorry. Back to D flat. Back down to C flat. Back to the same again. It's so romantic, actually, really, as a theme in it. That's genius, isn't it? Please consider taking a moment to check out my other channel, JW Soundworks, where you will find unique cover song performances, newly composed piano arrangements, and all of my self-composed original music. Genius stuff. Let's go on. I love that flangey synth. It's my best impersonation of a flanger. Sounds a little bit like a flanger. It might not be, but that's what it sounds like. That. I mean, where else? What other channel are you going to get this content on, folks? Come on. Panning. Listen on headphones. There's a clash. So when he goes up to this, there's already there's a dissonance there. That could be the accidental thing with the overlayering. You know, possibly an older thing that's being held and it's went over. Happy accident again, perhaps, or intentional. Not sure. You can hear it. Right across, lots of extreme panning. And have you noticed the thing I also touched upon in the introduction, where, you know, when you play it through, it's not like this, and then it's not like that every time. Sometimes it's like this. You know, so the chord changes in a different place, and then he maybe starts. Then the chord comes in on this note. So that's that thing I was saying to you about before, where not everything lines up. I mean, if he knew he was in 13/8, he'd be I'm sure he would be, or 13/16, whatever way you want to think about it, he'd be thinking, right, da-da-dum. But the thing about it is, it never seems to really go out of time. Maybe it's just its instinct of when to play is there. But the way that is ambiguous, that the theme tune is sometimes coming up on an upbeat, you know, ahead of the bar, and other times it's on the downbeat. It's never always the same. I love that because it just makes it sound so spontaneous, you know? Military snare over here. This. You can hear there's definitely a melodic note in there. There's an E flat on a synth. But the metallic sound, I read somewhere before that it's him hitting a frying pan. And listen, I've been there. When we were in lockdown, I recorded with the band an acoustic version of one of our songs. And I used pretty much everything in this room, including a comb and throwing utensils and everything in, like, to get like a snare sound. I remember throwing knives and forks into a bucket. All that stuff works. It's great fun. So hitting a frying pan is not out of the ordinary for me. We use whatever we have to. Building and drama. There's a rising bass line. It's all coming together. Oh, man. You can hear the notes changing on the, even though you still got the ba-bum, 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 you know, the instrumentation being used on that is different as the track goes on. Yeah, that's, you can hear it's starting to all build into this cacophony. Down the middle. fade out. Interesting. I kind of thought it was going to end on a note. Don't know why I thought that. Maybe it does in a different edition or something like that. But maybe it is. In Terminator 2, does it end like that? You know, in the introduction, does it stop? Surely it doesn't fade out in the film. You would imagine it would. What's that first scene anyway? Whenever is there something in the street where you get the lightning, and then who's the first one? I can't remember. I need to watch this film again. Is it Arnie first that comes down, or is it Kyle Reese? Remember seeing the street and there's like a little hobo land there and all stuff in there. Anyway, right, it's not a video about the film. Sure, it's not. It's about music. But great theme tune. Great stuff. Back from the golden days, eh? One guy and a synthesizer and a frying pan. One of the greatest soundtracks of history. Brilliant. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed this one. Don't forget to head over to Patreon, join the cool kids, check out some other reaction analysis type things. If you enjoyed this, check out some of my own music. There's tons of stuff on this channel you can have a little rummage through. Have a good one. See you next time. If you're passionate about piano, whether as a player or listener, or if you're considering online lessons or masterclasses, please visit my YouTube channel, John Wilson Online Piano Lessons. There you'll discover a wealth of piano performances with many more to come. Based on demand, I'll also be introducing video tutorials for piano pieces. Thank you.